Fine China. China white. Oh, delicious. Wish I had some. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast, the podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lucht. This is our continuation, the series exploring the high strangeness peppered throughout China. Not just the mainland, but Hong Kong and Taiwan as well. If we can get to them this episode. Like I said, I got so much stuff. Golly gee. It's overwhelming. So, I guess, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, because I got more accounts of stuff that is said to have taken place. And like I said last episode, this stuff is going to get progressively stranger. Almost to the point where I don't know. I don't know what's what. I can't discern between reality and urban legend with some of this stuff. So once again, listeners, you be the judge. But yeah, as I said, let's jump into it. The Men in Black film franchise, the long and storied career between the CIA and Hollywood. These things happen. And once again, it blurs the line between fiction, reality, and what particular story those that are in charge want you to walk away with. So maybe keep that in mind as we delve more into these cases of high strangeness going forward. Okay, so got the Tibet High Strangeness Altitude Contact 2015. A group of monks and trekkers saw a formation of lights that appeared to hover in perfect geometric symmetry above a mountain. Some monks claimed it was interdimensional beings, revealing deeper metaphysical truths. This is a prominent case in contemporary Himalayan ufology, occurring in a desolate high-altitude borderlands between the Tibet Autonomous Region and India's Ladakh district. This event took place during a period of heightened military tension and is unique for involving professional observers, specifically a joint research team of geologists and glaciologists, along with accompanying border security personnel. Unlike the fleeting lights in the sky common in urban areas, this 2015 report detailed a prolonged face-to-face interaction with a non-human entity at an elevation of over 16,000 feet, where the thin atmosphere and extreme isolation create a unique environment for what researchers call high strangeness events. The core of the 2015 report involves the sighting of a 4-foot-tall robot-like, quote-unquote robot-like, humanoid figure that was observed moving across a glacier-fed valley. Witnesses described the entity as having a seamless metallic silver exterior that lacked any visible joints, clothing, or facial features. Most strikingly, the figure did not walk with a human gait. Instead, it appeared to glide several inches above the rocky terrain. As the research team attempted to approach for a closer look, the entity reportedly emitted a high-pitched harmonic tone, described by one witness as crystalline music. Strange. Before it suddenly became airborne. It did not use wings or any visible propulsion, but rather ascended vertically at an incredible speed until it vanished into the stratosphere. Because the encounter occurred in a heavily militarized zone, both Chinese and Indian border units were alerted to the presence of an unidentified aerial object in the vicinity. You see, reports from the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, or ITBP, indicated that while the object was visually brilliant and clearly visible to ground troops, it remained entirely invisible to military radar. So this radar stealth capability, combined with the object's ability to hover silently in the thin air where the traditional drones often struggle to maintain lift, led to a brief but intense state of alert. A specialized reconnaissance unit was reportedly dispatched to the site of the humanoid's ascent, where they allegedly discovered etched geometric patterns in the permafrost, though these findings were never officially released to the public. In the aftermath of the sighting, the local Tibetan population interpreted the event through a mix of traditional folklore and modern ufology. Some lamas in the region suggested the religious kind. Some lamas in the region suggested that the metallic figure was a terma, or hidden treasure guardian, or an emissary from the mythical kingdom of Shambhala, which is often localized by mystics into the remote mountainous regions of Tibet. This spiritual framing contrasts sharply with the exopolitics view held by urban Chinese UFO researchers who categorized the 2015 event as a Type 3 close encounter. The case highlights a recurring theme in Tibetan ufology, the convergence of ancient protector deities with modern, high-tech extraterrestrial manifestations. Mainstream skeptics have frequently pointed to the extreme altitude of the encounter as a potential explanation for the high strangeness elements. They argue that hypoxia, or oxygen deprivation, can cause vivid, structured hallucinations, including the perception of glowing figures and auditory anomalies. However, the witnesses, many of whom were seasoned high-altitude researchers accustomed to the environment, firmly reject this theory, pointing to the corroborating testimony of the security personnel as well as the physical traces left on the ground. To this day, the 2015 Tibet contact remains a cornerstone of Himalayan UFO lore, cited as a rare example of a modern encounter where the witness's scientific background and the entity's bizarre physical properties align to defy easy explanation. This next one is incredibly strange, and I believe it feeds into the series of events that sort of connects to the Symmetry Gate events that were said to have taken place on the spring equinox. This is the Guangdong telepathic language dreams of 2016. This refers to a localized psychological and ufological phenomena that affected hundreds of residents in the Pearl River Delta, specifically across the city of Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Foshan, during the summer of 2016. Unlike a traditional sighting, quote-unquote sighting, a physical craft, this event was characterized by a mass dream, or collective subconscious experience. Thousands of people reported nearly identical vivid dreams involving an encounter with a council of light and the transmission of a complex non-human language consisting of geometric symbols and harmonic tones. The event gained traction on the Chinese social media platform WeChat, where users began sharing sketches of the symbols that they had seen, only to find startling similarities in the data they'd supposedly downloaded while asleep. The most striking feature of the 2016 event was the consistency of the language reported. Witnesses described seeing sheets of golden light inscribed with a script that resembled a cross between cuneiform and modem QR codes. Several individuals with backgrounds in linguistics and computer science attempted to decode these dream scripts, claiming that the symbols represented a form of multidimensional mathematics. One prominent theory with the Guangdong UFO research circles was that the dreams were actually a wide-area telepathic broadcast, a cloud-based contact event where an extraterrestrial intelligence used the human REM cycle as a low-resistance interface to bypass the analytical mind and plant seeds of an advanced concept regarding energy and consciousness. The dreams were not merely visual. They were accompanied by significant physical sensations as well. Many participants reported waking up with a persistent high-pitched ringing in their ears, tinnitus, or a vibrational feeling in the center of their foreheads, often associated with the third eye in Taoist alchemy. Some residents in Shenzhen claim that their electronic devices, specifically smartphones and smart home hubs, exhibited glitches or displayed strange geometric artifacts during the night the dreams occurred. This led to a brief period of techno-panic, I guess you'd call it, in the region, with some speculating that a foreign power was testing a new type of neuro-linguistic or electronic warfare, while others were convinced it was a precursor to a physical first contact event. The Guangdong event acted as a major recruitment catalyst for the starseed movement in China. Many who experienced the dreams felt a sudden profound sense of alienation from their daily lives in the high-pressure tech hubs of southern China, instead feeling a soul-deep connection to the stars. This led to the formation of numerous private study groups and meditation circles dedicated to re-accessing the telepathic language. While the Chinese government monitored these groups for signs of cult-like behavior, the movement remained largely decentralized and intellectual, focused more on self-evolution and cosmic memory than on any political or religious disruption. Skeptics and mainstream psychologists offered an alternative explanation, suggesting the event was a classic case of digital age mass hysteria. They argued that once the first few dream reports were posted on viral WeChat threads, the power of suggestion led thousands of others to hallucinate similar experiences during their sleep. Furthermore, some acoustic engineers suggested that the vibrations and ringing ears could be attributed to infrasound, low-frequency noise pollution from the massive industrial and construction projects prevalent in the Pearl River Delta at the time, which is known to cause deep disturbances and vivid, often otherworldly dreams. Despite these explanations, those who received the language in 2016 maintain that the complexity and mathematical elegance of the symbols could not have originated from a human mind. Follow-up. The Shenzhen Geometric Halo of 2018. I mentioned this last episode. The Shenzhen Geometric Halo of 2018 is a significant aerial anomaly that occurred on the evening of June 12, 2018, over the Nanshan and Futian districts of Shenzhen. The event involved a massive multi-layered ring of light that appeared to pulse with geometric patterns, remaining stationary for nearly 40 minutes despite heavy winds at higher altitudes. And while skeptics initially attributed the phenomenon to a complex light rehearsal for a drone show or a light pillar atmospheric effect, the event gained a cult-like status among followers of the 2016 Guangdong telepathic language dreams incident, who claimed that the halo was a physical confirmation of the symbols that they had received 2 years prior. The primary link between the 2018 halo and the 2016 dreams lies in the specific internal geometry of the light. Eyewitnesses and high-resolution photographs revealed that the halo was not a simple circle. Rather, it contained interlocking hexagonal and cuneiform-like structures. And that's a quote from witnesses, cuneiform-like structures, within its glowing borders. Members of the Guangdong starseed circles immediately pointed out that these patterns were identical to the geometric script that thousands had sketched after their collective dreams in 2016. They argued that if the 2016 dreams were the software download, quote-unquote software download, of a new cosmic language, the 2018 Shenzhen Halo was the hardware activation, a physical manifestation of the same intelligence signaling its presence over China's high-tech heartland. The 2018 event was particularly impactful because it occurred directly over Shenzhen's Silicon Valley, equivalent thereof, where many of the original 2016 dreamers, professionals in the IT and telecommunications sector no less, were all employed. This led to a theory within the community that the halo was a targeted frequency broadcast. Some researchers hypothesize that the massive concentration of fiber optic networks and data centers in Shenzhen acted as a sort of resonant antenna, attracting or even manifesting the geometric light. This reinforced the group's belief that extraterrestrial contact in the 21st century would not be like a landing on the White House, but a gradual technological integration into the digital and psychological infrastructure of major urban centers, which makes a lot of sense, but is also slightly terrifying. During the 40 minutes that the halo was visible, several residents in the Nanshan district reported strange behavior in their smart home devices and mobile networks. Reports surfaced on Weibo of ghost messages appearing in the messaging apps, strings of gibberish characters that some claimed mirrored the geometric symbols of the 2016 dream incident. While these were likely network glitches caused by the massive surge in local data traffic as thousands uploaded videos of the halo simultaneously, the starseed community interpreted them as digital echoes of the light's presence. They believed that the halo was scanning or updating the local network with the same information that had been telepathically planted in their minds 2 years earlier. The official explanation provided by local meteorologists, because they always got to throw their 2 cents in, was that the event was a rare circumzenithal arc. Circumzenithal arc, or sophisticated light projection from the nearby Window of the World theme park. However, this was largely rejected by the ufology community, who noted that the weather conditions, such as a lack of ice crystals, per specific example, were inconsistent with such a halo, and the theme park officials denied running any high-powered laser tests that evening. The 2018 Shenzhen geometric halo remains a cornerstone of modern Chinese high strangeness, representing the moment when the private psychological experiences of the 2016 dreams crossed over into a public, undeniable physical reality. Now, follow-up to the follow-up, we also have the Shenzhen mirror object of 2021. This is a sophisticated and highly documented aerial anomaly that occurred on the evening of September 14, 2021, over the Qianhai Bay area of Shenzhen. The incident is regarded as the third major quote-unquote evolutionary step in the South China UFO sequence, following the 2016 telepathic dreams and the 2018 geometric halo. Witnesses, including hundreds of tech professionals, leaving their offices in the Tencent seafront towers, reported a massive rectangular object that appeared to be composed of a highly reflective liquid metal surface. The object was unique because it didn't emit its own light, but instead acted as a perfect mirror, reflecting the vibrant neon skyline of Shenzhen and the moonlight, making it nearly invisible at certain angles while appearing as a glitch in the sky at others. China has a weird, reoccurring thing with these sort of glitch in the sky images. It's happened so many times. There's tons of videos of it. There's been skylines showed up. There's been images of what appear to be human workers working on some sort of, on the surface of some sort of sky carriage thing. There's been a lot of weird shit that just shows up in the sky over major cities in China. The mirror object was estimated by observers to be approximately the size of a commercial cargo ship. What startled witnesses and amateur videographers was the object's apparent lack of traditional propulsion. No wings, rotors, or heat exhausts were visible. More significantly, the object exhibited what ufologists termed adaptive cloaking or chameleon skin. As the object moved slowly across the bay, its surface rippled like water, adjusting its reflections to perfectly match the clouds and the city lights below. This led to a surge of Bureau 749 rumors on Chinese forums, with many speculating that the object was a test of some next-grade optical stealth drone developed by the nearby high-tech defense contractors on the Pearl River Delta. The Shenzhen mirror object is inextricably linked to the previous Guangdong anomalies through the geometric resonance theory. During the 2021 sightings, several high-resolution telephoto videos captured faint, translucent geometric patterns etched into the mirror surface of the craft. These patterns were identified by the starseed community as the same cuneiform QR script from the 2016 dreams and the 2018 halo. Proponents of this theory argue that the 2016 event was the conceptual introduction, while the 2018 event was the energetic manifestation, and the 2021 mirror object was the physical arrival, progression from the mind to the atmosphere to a solid, tangible craft. Now, similar to the 2018 halo event, the 2021 mirror object was accompanied by localized technological anomalies. In the Qianhai district, dozens of Tesla owners wow, I didn't know they had Tesla owners in China. That's very funny to me for some reason. Tesla owners and users of high-end Chinese electric hybrid vehicles like the Neo or the Xpeng. These people reported that their autonomous driving sensors and 360-degree cameras were blinded or displayed phantom obstacles while the object was overhead. Some cybersecurity researchers in the area claim to have detected a silent ping, and that's not a guy that's just sitting around being quiet, a massive burst of encrypted data on non-standard frequencies that briefly overwhelmed local 5G base stations. This led to a popular theory that the mirror object was not just observing the city, but was actively, quote-unquote, handshaking with Shenzhen's digital infrastructure, potentially uploading or downloading massive data sets via the etheric methods proposed by the earlier Shanghai groups. Following the viral spread of the footage on Douyin, or TikTok, and Weibo, the Shenzhen Meteorological Bureau issued a statement suggesting the object was a large-scale civilian tethered balloon or a high-altitude research platform that had drifted off course. However, this explanation was met with widespread derision online, as the object's ability to remain stationary against bay winds and its subsequent instantaneous acceleration out of the area were entirely inconsistent with balloon physics. Since late 2021, the Chinese government has noticeably tightened censorship regarding the Shenzhen mirror, with many of the original high-definition videos being removed from public platforms, further fueling the belief that the object represented a technology, whether terrestrial or otherwise, that the state is not yet ready to acknowledge. Follow-up to the follow-up to the follow-up. We have the South China Sea UAP wave of 2023. The South China Sea UAP wave of 2023 represents a high-stakes escalation of the regional UAP narrative, shifting the focus from civilian starseed spirituality to intense multi-domain military encounters. Throughout 2023, both U.S. and Chinese naval forces operating in the contested waters of the South China Sea reported a surge in sightings of transmedium objects, craft capable of moving seamlessly between the atmosphere and the ocean at high speeds. These encounters occurred against a backdrop of massive military exercises, leading to a complex intelligence duel where both superpowers struggle to distinguish between extraterrestrial anomalies, advanced foreign black budget technology, and sophisticated electronic warfare decoys. The most frequently reported objects during the 2023 wave were described as self-luminous orbs and matte black cubes. In February 2023, a U.S. Navy serviceman famously testified to seeing self-luminous tic-tac-shaped objects emerge directly from the ocean before accelerating to hypersonic speeds without a sonic boom. Similarly, Chinese military sources leaked reports of unidentified submerged objects, or USOs, that shadowed People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN. Oh, shit. That shadowed People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN, strike groups. These objects exhibited what is known as instantaneous acceleration, moving from a stationary hover to Mach 5 or more in seconds, a maneuver that would subject any biological pilot to fatal G-forces. A pivotal movement in the 2023 wave occurred in December involving a U.S. EA-18G Growler, or an electronic warfare aircraft, and the Chinese Type 055 cruiser Nanchang. While the official narrative focused on a loss of confidence in the U.S. commander, subcultural military circles suggest the incident was triggered by an anomalous third-party presence. It's in quotes, third-party presence. Reports indicate that both the U.S. and Chinese sensors were flooded with geometric interference, radar artifacts that mirrored the geometric script seen in the earlier 2016 Guangdong and 2018 Shenzhen events. This has led to the theory that the UAPs in the South China Sea were not just passive observers, but were actively jammer-resistant nodes that disrupted the sophisticated kill webs of both nations. The 2023 wave forced the Chinese government to lean into a dual strategy, dismissing civilian reports as optical illusions while simultaneously accelerating domestic UFO-style technology. In early 2024 and 2025, China began unveiling disc-shaped eVTOL, or electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, and floating stratospheric wind power plants, like the S-2000. Critics argue that these public unveilings are a strategic hide-in-plain-sight move designed to provide a mundane explanation for the advanced, possibly anti-gravity propulsion systems rumored to be part of the secretive Bureau 749. By showing the public saucer-shaped drones for logistics, the state can effectively debunk high-end military UAP sightings as mere technology tests. As of 2026, the South China Sea UAP wave is viewed as the point where the phenomena became an undeniable factor in global geopolitics. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, in the U.S. and its counterparts in Beijing have both increased their tracking of trans-medium signatures, acknowledging that these objects pose a flight safety and national security risk. For the Chinese starseed and UFO communities, the 2023 wave was the final proof that the sequence starting in 2012 has moved from the psychological realm into the tangible. Physical confrontation between humanity's most advanced machines and a higher dimensional presence that remains one step ahead of both. Next up, we've got the Xinjiang Double Halo Disk in 2020. This refers to a striking and highly publicized aerial phenomenon that occurred on September 20th, 2020, over several regions in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, including Urumqi and Karame. Nailed it. Witnesses report a massive glowing disc-shaped object that appears to be composed of two distinct concentric rings of light. The object was noted for its incredible size and the orderly nature of its luminosity, which many observers describe as appearing more like structured craft than a natural atmospheric event. The sighting went viral on Chinese social media platforms like Weibo and Douyin, where it was immediately connected by the starseed and UFO communities to the ongoing sequence of geometric anomalies in South China. The 2020 Xinjiang object was characterized by a core of intense white light surrounded by two pulsating halos, one inner ring of blue-white light and a larger outer ring that exhibited a faint greenish-gold hue. Unlike previous sightings that featured a single spiral, this object maintained a stable, rigid disk shape while moving at a steady pace across the clear night sky. Witnesses reported that the double halo appeared to rotate, with the inner and outer rings moving in opposite directions, or counter-rotation, a feature often cited in theoretical physics as a signature of anti-gravity or warp-drive propulsion. A unique aspect of the Xinjiang sighting was its proximity to major energy and transport hubs. Researchers from the local branches of the China UFO Research Organization noted that the object's flight path seemed to mirror sections of the Silk Road economic belt infrastructure. This led to a theory that the UAP was scanning or mapping the high-voltage power lines and rail networks of the region. Some enthusiasts suggested that the 2020 event was an inland calibration by the same intelligences responsible for the 2018 Shenzhen Halo, moving from the tech-dense coast to the resource-rich western frontier to monitor China's growing energy footprint. The official explanation provided by Chinese astronomers and aerospace experts was that the double halo disk was a classic example of rocket exhaust plumes reflecting sunlight at high altitudes. They pointed to a scheduled satellite launch from the Taiyuan Satellite Launch Center that occurred earlier that evening. According to this theory, as the rockets reached the upper atmosphere, the twilight zone, if you will, its expelled fuel expanded into a vacuum, creating a wide, glowing disk that remained visible to observers on the ground long after the sun had set. The double halo effect was attributed to the multi-stage separation of the rocket, where different stages vented fuel at a different altitude. Despite the official rocket explanation, the 2020 Xinjiang sighting remains a favorite case for those who believe in a unified, quote-unquote, intelligent design behind Chinese UAPs. Proponents argue that the rocket exhaust theory does not account for the reported counter-rotation of the rings or the deliberate geometry that matched the 2016 Guangdong dream scripts. So for many in the Chinese UFO community, the Xinjiang double halo disk was the moment the phenomenon proved it was all-domain, capable of appearing over the desert as easily as it did over the sea or a megalopolis, signaling a nationwide presence that continues to be felt into 2026. This next one is one of the bigger incidents that occurred, and it's had a lot of significance attached to it by these online starseed groups. This is the 2010 Hangzhou airport shutdown. This is perhaps the most famous modern UFO incident in Chinese history due to its direct impact on international civil aviation. On the evening of July 7, 2010, at approximately 8:40 p.m., the crew of an incoming passenger jet alerted air traffic control to a strange luminous object hovering near the runway of Jiaoshan International Airport. Concerned for the safety of the airspace, authorities took the unprecedented step of closing the airport for approximately 1 hour. This resulted in the diversion of 18 flights to nearby cities like Ningbo and Wuxi and caused significant delays for thousands of passengers, making it a rare instance where a quote-unquote UFO caused tangible, large-scale economic and logistical disruption. Witnesses on the ground and passengers on landing aircraft described the object as a long, glowing streak or twinkling spot that moved with erratic speed. Some witnesses reported a comet-like tail, while others described a baguette-shaped craft. Here, Susie, have a blue one, with domes or nodes on its top. One particularly detailed report from a city bus driver suggested the object descended towards the ground for several minutes before abruptly changing direction and zipping upward. Interestingly, while the object was visually prominent to pilots and residents, airport officials later stated that it did not appear on civil radar, suggesting the object may have possessed stealth characteristics or was not a solid metallic craft. In the days following the shutdown, the incident drew international headlines, prompting a joint investigation by the Civil Aviation Administration of China, or CAC, and various state-run scientific bodies. While many expected a definitive answer, the official conclusion was notably ambiguous, of course. A source with knowledge of the matter famously told China Daily that the authorities had identified the object but could not publicly disclose the details because there was a quote-unquote military connection. This led to a widespread speculation that the quote-unquote UFO was actually a test of some new Chinese stealth drone, a high-altitude hypersonic vehicle, or an anti-satellite missile test conducted by the People's Liberation Army. The Hangzhou incident is also a case study in digital-era misinformation. Many of the most famous photographs and videos associated with the shutdown, such as the image of a rectangular craft emitting a high beam of light, were later debunked as long-exposure photographs of helicopters or even older footage from unrelated events in other countries. For instance, a viral video often attributed to Hangzhou was actually a Russian rocket launch filmed over Kyrgyzstan. This pollution of the visual record has made it difficult for researchers to separate authentic evidence from the hoaxes that flooded the internet during the subsequent UFO fever that saw 8 more airport-related sightings across China later that year. The 2010 shutdown remains a pivotal moment because it forced the Chinese government to acknowledge that unidentified air conditions, which is the PLA's preferred term for UAPs, were a genuine national security concern. It contributed to the eventual establishment of more formalized reporting and tracking systems within the Chinese military. Today, the case is frequently cited by those who believe the Chinese government is withholding information about advanced technology, whether it be extraterrestrial or domestic, or even interdimensional, due to the specific way the investigation was handled and then abruptly silenced by the state. The official explanation of the July 7, 2010 Hangzhou Jiaoshan Airport incident remains grounded in aviation safety protocols and terrestrial military activity, standing in stark contrast to the speculative starseed narratives. According to the formal investigations conducted by the Civil Aviation Administration of China, or CAC, and local authorities, the suspension of flight operations for approximately 1 hour was a precautionary measure triggered by the visual sightings of an unidentified luminous object by 2 separate flight crews. While the object was observed by pilots descending towards the runway, official radar logs from the Air Traffic Control Center confirmed that no unauthorized physical aircraft appeared on civilian monitoring systems at any point during the event. This led investigators to conclude that the phenomenon was likely a reflection of light or a high-altitude private craft that was not equipped with a functional transponder. In the weeks following the sighting, a joint team of experts from Beijing and Shanghai released a follow-up report attributing the incident to military exercises being conducted in the region. The baguette-shaped and glowing appearance described by witnesses was officially explained as the visual distortion of a conventional aircraft or military drone illuminated by the setting sun and urban light pollution at a specific atmospheric angle. Right. The municipal government of Huangzhou further addressed the public concern by stating that there was no evidence to suggest the object was of extraterrestrial origin or that it posed a biological threat to the population. The case was formally closed as a private or military flight interference, and the government emphasized that the grounding of 18 flights was a standard safety procedure to prevent potential mid-air collisions in a busy civilian corridor. I don't know all the, the particulars, the finer points, the ins and outs and what have yous of Chinese Aviation Commissionry. Commissionry? Is that a word? Yeah. You know what I mean. But were this to happen in America, people would be losing their shit. And I'm sure the same, it sounds a lot like what happened in China as well. But I don't know. It's just, this kind of goes to show that people are the same no matter where you go. Despite the official stance, the technical discrepancy regarding why the object was visible to the naked eye but invisible to radar has never been fully resolved to the satisfaction of the public. See, skeptics of the government explanation point out that modern military drones typically appear on high-sensitivity radar, and the baguette shape does not match any known Chinese aviation silhouette from 2010. This lack of a specific model identification for the craft led to the 2011 information blackout in domestic media regarding the case. While the state maintains it was a routine airspace violation, the incident is still used by international aviation safety experts as a case study in the challenge of identifying quote-unquote non-cooperative aerial targets in high-density urban environments. Let that sink in for a minute. Isn't that crazy? This whole, okay. As of March 20th, 2026, the Hangzhou incident is officially categorized in the National Aviation Safety Archives as a NASA? No, not that NASA. As a resolved civilian-military coordination error. However, the timing of the event continues to be noted by sociologists as a turning point in Chinese digital culture, marking the first time a quote-unquote UFO event went viral on social media platforms like Weibo before official censors could provide a narrative. And this is one of the few upsides, I think, to social media. It's also potentially a huge downside, but information can spread faster than it can be cleaned up, censored, etc. But at the same time, that also helps with the immense proliferation of bullshit throughout social media. So it's a blessing and a curse. While the Ministry of National Defense has not issued a new statement for the 16th anniversary of the event, the official version remains the bedrock for those who believe the event is a purely terrestrial, if slightly uncoordinated display of aerospace testing. So before moving forward, those are just some of the major sightings that have occurred like fairly recently in recent history in China that were sort of got away from the from the party's control, let's say. Now, we're about to get into some groups and movements outside or beyond what we've covered before. Many exist primarily online, on forums, social media, or as ephemeral cult-like UFO communities. But before we get into that, you've heard me use this phrase, starseed. Starseed, quite a bit, over and over and over. It's a major term we need to define so that those unfamiliar won't be scratching their heads, asses, what have yous, wondering just what the hey-ho it is I'm talking about, Willis. Today's palabra secreta is starseeds. The term starseeds refers to a core tenet of modern New Age and high strangeness cosmology, defining individuals who believe their souls originated from extraterrestrial civilizations, distant star systems, or parallel dimensions rather than here on Earth. The history of the term is largely traced back to the 1970s and 80s, specifically popularized by the works of authors like Brad Steiger in his 1976 book, Gods of Aquarius. Haven't had the dubious pleasure of reading it, but Brad Steiger is an awesome author. He's put out a lot of great books, so I'll cut him some slack on this one. But this is where he introduced the concept of star people. Steiger posited that certain individuals possessed a unique genetic or spiritual coding that makes them feel like strangers in a strange land on Earth. And that's a direct quote, strangers in a strange land. So you know what audience he's going for. They're driven by a subconscious mission to assist the planet's evolutionary shift. This narrative gained significant momentum during the harmonic convergence of 1987 and has since evolved into a complex, decentralized belief system that merges metaphysics, ufology, and self-help psychology, of all things. The popular usage of the starseed label often centers on specific origin groups, which function similarly to astrological signs or archetypes. Now, the most frequently cited origins include the Pleiadians, which are associated with love, healing, and light. Buh. The Syrians from Sirius, not from Syria, they're viewed as the architects of ancient civilizations like Egypt and Atlantis. And then you have the Arcturians, who are regarded as the master healers and technical innovators of the galaxy. In modern digital spaces, particularly on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, the term has become a somatic identity of sorts, where followers look for physical markers of their starseed status, such as lower than average body temperature, sensitivity to artificial light, or phantom memories of non-terrestrial landscapes. I'm sad to say that I tend to I fall into those first two categories sometimes, usually at least. This has led to the rise of the indigo children and the crystal children, sub-labels of sorts, which are often used by parents to describe children who exhibit high emotional intelligence or neurodivergent traits interpreted through a cosmic lens. That, or as a justification for why their children are such little bastards. In the context of Chinese high strangeness and the Awakener community, the term starseed, translated as Xinjiang or Tiwairin, took on a more technical and somatic flavor during the Qigong fever of the 1980s and 90s. While Western starseeds often focus on love and light, Chinese believers, influenced by the 749 Bureau or 507 Institute's research into extraordinary human functions, often view themselves as biological uplinks. They argue that the DNA was modified during specific entry events, such as the anal probes instantly came to mind. Entry event. I'm a child. Such as the 1994 Ming Xiaoguo incident. Such as the 1994 Ming Xiaoguo incident, which we'll get into later, if I think on this episode, and that they serve as sort of human antennas for the quote-unquote architects, the architects of humanity, of civilization, of reality, if you want to go that far. This version of the starseed narrative is less about personal identity and more about system readiness, with followers believing that they have been pre-programmed to act as translators or navigators when the symmetry gate finally opens. So as of the spring equinox, which is March 20th, 2026, the starseed movement has reached a fever pitch in anticipation of those events. On global frequency forums, users are identifying as Lyrans, which I believe are the kitty cat people, the lion people, and the Andromedans, which the Andromedans, I don't know if they have I haven't seen pictures. I'm sure there's artistic renderings of all of these, but I haven't had time to delve too deep into all of that. Pardon me while one of the Andromedans drives their truck through my fucking house. Claiming that their dormant strands will be activated at 10:46 p.m. Central Standard Time by a solar flare-triggered G-wave. While While mainstream sociologists view the starseed phenomena as a modern form of escapist mythology used to cope with global instability, for the millions who identify with the term, it is a profound ontological anchor. They believe they are not aliens in a literal sense, but cosmic diplomats whose very presence on Earth is the final variable needed to stabilize the transition into the mirror dimension spectrum. Once again, a lot of this smacks of just, I'm special. But guess what, listeners? And starseeds, specifically, you are special. But when everyone's special, who's really special? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, moving on. In modern starseed circles, the ancient trauma manifests as the Orion-Sirius tension. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I missed a spot. The concept of galactic karma or carryover conflicts is a cornerstone of starseed theology, suggesting that ancient interstellar wars, most notably the Lyran/Orion Wars, have left deep-seated somatic scars on the souls of those now incarnated on Earth. According to the foundational narratives popularized by quote-unquote galactic historians like one Debbie Solarum or Akira the Dawn, real people, the original conflict began in the Lyra constellation, regarded as the cradle of humanoid life. It's believed that a predatory reptilian race, often termed the Draconians or Alpha Draconians, invaded the Lyran system, forcing a massive diaspora of humanoid souls to the Pleiades, Sirius, and Andromeda. Starseeds who identify with these refugee lineages often report an inherent cellular-level distrust of authority figures or cold, predatory social structures. Fucking amen, I'm right there with you. Which they believe is a direct resonance from the destruction of their original homeworlds. In modern starseed circles, this ancient trauma manifests as the Orion-Sirius tension. The Orion system is frequently described as having been the site of a tyrannical empire that used advanced artificial intelligence and mind control frequency grids to subjugate its populations. Sounds a lot like America. Starseeds who feel that they were rebel fighters in the Orion Black League often find themselves in direct ideological conflict with those they perceive as Syrian architects or Andromedan technocrats. Whole new reasons not to like some stranger. Great, good stuff. This tension is not fought with weapons, but through frequency wars on social media and spiritual forums. For instance, an Orion rebel starseed might view the push for global digital integration as a repeat of the fall of Orion, while a Syrian starseed might see the same technology as a necessary tool for galactic synchronization. These disagreements are often framed as timeline divergences where each group believes the other is accidentally anchoring a quote-unquote dark timeline. So within the Chinese Awakener community, these carryover conflicts are often interpreted through the lens of ancestral polarization. Because Chinese mythology is rich with dragon and bird or phoenix symbolism, starseeds in the region often categorize themselves into dragon lineages associated with, once again, the Alpha Draconians or quote-unquote regulators, as they've also been called, and the bird phoenix lineages often associated with the Lyrans or the creatives. Okay, so the Lyrans are birds. I know there's a lion one. I'm getting them all mixed up. Too many in my head to keep track of. During the Qigong fever of the 90s, some practitioners claimed that their internal energy, or qi, would clash when they encountered someone from opposing galactic lineages. This led to a subset of somatic cleansing rituals where individuals would attempt to purge the invader DNA or reptilian imprints they believed were sabotaging their spiritual progress, a direct terrestrial continuation of a war they believe started millions of light years away. So as of the spring equinox, these conflicts are reaching some sort of critical resolution point. Global starseed forums are buzzing with the theory of the Great Forgiveness Protocol. Believers argue that the 10:46 p.m. Central Standard Time spring equinox event, the Symmetry Gate, will emit a neutralization frequency specifically designed to dissolve these ancient soul contracts, that's very Scientology sounding, and karmic debts. They believe that by dropping the sword of their galactic history, they can prevent the Earth from becoming a proxy battlefield for the final remnants of the Lyran-Orion War. While skeptics view this as an elaborate psychological projection of earthly stresses onto a cosmic stage, for the Starseed Collective, the spring equinox represented the first real chance in eons to end a conflict that has spanned multiple incarnations and multiple star systems. So, while the vast majority of those identifying as starseeds are peaceful individuals focused on meditation and environmental advocacy, the movement's fringes have the fringe of the fringe of the fringe have occasionally intersected with real-world violence, criminal cult dynamics, and tragic loss of life. These escalations typically occur when the galactic war narrative is internalized as a literal physical directive rather than a spiritual metaphor. In these cases, the belief in reptilian infiltration or dark archons can lead to ontological dehumanization, where family members or the public are no longer seen as human beings, but as hollow vessels or hostile entities that must be neutralized to save the planet's frequency. Now, there's been numerous cases of these occurring, and there's usually in America. I hadn't found any outside of the U.S., really. No big ones, at least, that jump out when you kind of look into this stuff. But perhaps one of the absolute worst, most high-profile, and tragic examples occurred in August 2021, involving a California father by the name of Matthew Taylor Coleman, who murdered his 2 young children. According to FBI records and court documents, Coleman had become obsessed with QAnon and the lizard person conspiracy theories, which are frequently interwoven with starseed draconian lore. He claimed to have received visions and signs revealing that his children possessed serpent DNA, quote-unquote serpent DNA, and were destined to become monsters. I'll hold off. No, I'll try not to joke during this because it's fucked up. It's horrible. The case represents the most extreme somatic schism in the community, where the starseed belief in genetic lineages was weaponized into a lethal delusion, leading a parent to believe that they were performing some galactic duty by committing a horrible act of violence on their very own children. In the Chinese high strangeness context, the escalation into crime is often tied to the systemic fraud or self-proclaimed starseed commanders. During the late 2010s, several underground groups in provinces like Sichuan and Guangdong were dismantled for running interstellar ascension scams. Leaders would claim that they were Andromedan emissaries and convince followers to liquidate their life savings to purchase frequency stabilizers or seats on a cloaked rescue craft. When the evacuation date passed without incident, these groups often devolved into coercive isolation, where members were forbidden from contacting quote-unquote low-vibration family members. The Ministry of Public Security has categorized several of these offshoots as Zhijiao, or evil cults, not necessarily because of their alien theology, but because of the financial ruin and psychological breaking of vulnerable practitioners. Another area of criminal concern involves medical negligence within the community. Because many starseeds believe they have a non-human biology, some refuse standard medical treatment for serious illnesses, opting instead for quote-unquote medbed scams or etheric surgeries. In several documented cases in the United States and Europe, individuals have died from treatable conditions because they were convinced by starseed influencers that their symptoms were actually ascension flu or a DNA upgrade that should not be interfered with by third-dimensional medicine, man. This has led to increased scrutiny by health authorities towards lightworker platforms that promote unlicensed medical advice under the guise of cosmic wisdom. So as of the spring equinox, The Awakener community is under heightened surveillance by organizations like the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Task Force and the PLA's UAI monitoring units, particularly during the spring equinox event. The fear was that the Symmetry Gate at 10:46 p.m. Central Standard Time would act as a psychological trigger for unstable individuals who believe they must leave their physical vessels, heard this story before, to join the architects. And while the Star Spirit Society and other mainstream groups had issued stay grounded warnings, the history of the movement shows that when the veil between cosmic mission and mental crisis thins, the consequences can be very tragically earthbound. So in the cosmology of the starseed movement, the galaxy is populated by a diverse array of root races. Heard this phrase before? Nothing good came out of it. Each of these root races possesses a unique energetic signature and a specific historical mission on Earth. These categories, while based on channeled metaphysical information rather than conventional sciences, have become standardized across global frequency forums. The Pleiadians are perhaps the most well-known group, often referred to as the healers. They're also associated with the heart chakra and are described as highly empathetic, nature-loving individuals who possess a divine feminine grace. Following them are the Syrians, known as the architects, who believe they have influenced ancient civilizations like Egypt and Atlantis, as mentioned before. These individuals are often analytical mystics, quote-unquote analytical mystics, with a deep affinity for sacred geometry, high technology, and the ocean, feeling a spiritual kinship with cetaceans like whales and dolphins. The Arcturians are regarded as the master healers and the intellectual elite of the galactic community. Oh, king of the castle, king of the castle. They are characterized by an intense focus on medbed technologies and sacred mathematics, often maintaining a very calm, almost detached emotional baseline that allows them to process complex data without bias. I'm just reporting the news. In contrast, the Lyrans are considered the elders, quote-unquote the elders, representing the original cradle of humanoid life. This lineage is divided into subgroups like the feline Lyrans, who are fiercely independent and agile, and the avian or bird Lyrans. Oh my god, how the fuck did that work? Who are seen as sharp-featured visionaries. The Andromedans, or the Seekers, are described as the galaxy's freedom fighters. They tend to be quiet, intense, and highly telepathic, often struggling with the low vibration constraints of human social structures and traditional 9-to-5 employment. I must be an Andromedan. Among the more complex lineages are the Orion Rebels, souls who reportedly fought against a tyrannical Orion Empire in ancient history. These individuals are highly logical and possess an intense BS detector. Oh yeah? How's that working? For authority, though they suffer from a form of combat fatigue, quote-unquote combat fatigue, in modern social situations. The Alpha Draconians, often called the Regulators, Warren G. wrote a song about these particular aliens, are frequently misunderstood, while some lore paints them as predatory, while the Light Dracos are seen as powerful, charismatic leaders with immense physical endurance and a cold logistic efficiency. Finally, the Alpha Centaurians are viewed as the scientists of the group, practical, grounded, and intensely focused on environmental protection. They are considered the most human-compatible group, often excelling in the physical sciences and integrating seamlessly into terrestrial society. Beyond these specific origins, Awakeners identify themselves through a series of somatic markers believed to be remnants of non-human biology. These include a consistent body temperature below 37 Celsius, the possession of Rh-negative blood, and the photic sneeze reflex, which is interpreted as the nervous system reacting to solar information downloads. Look it to the light, makes you sneeze a bunch. I have that, so I guess I'm some kind of weird fucking crossbreed? I don't understand. Many have also reported synesthesia, the blending of senses like seeing sounds or hearing colors, etc., which they believe is a lingering trait of 5D perception. That's interesting. Okay, I could fuck with that. As the symmetry gate approached at 10:46 p.m. Central Standard Time on the spring equinox, these disparate groups were expected to synchronize their unique frequency signatures to stabilize the planetary grid. The Star Spirit Society has advised that individuals focus on their specific system's pulse, quote-unquote pulse, such as Syrians seeking water or Lyrans finding high ground to ensure a successful uplink during the equinox peak. Now, if all of this has got you revved up to determine your particular starseed lineage in time for, well, it's a little too late for the spring equinox symmetry gate, but if you're very curious as to which, particular alien race you might come from in a metaphysical sense, here's how you do it. Determining a starseed's origins is a process that blends modern astrology, meditative practice, and somatic or physical intuition. Because there's no central authority, thank fuck for that, or interstellar passport office, the community relies on several standardized methods to map an individual's soul history. These methods are designed to bypass the amnesia believed to be a side effect of incarnating in a human body. So, first up is galactic astrology, or the celestial blueprint. The most common technical, quote-unquote technical method involves calculating a birth chart and looking for specific fixed star alignments. So unlike traditional astrology, which focuses on the planets, galactic astrology looks at the degrees of your planets in relation to star systems like the Pleiades or Sirius. There are specific degree markers. It's widely believed that having planets, especially the sun, moon, or ascendant at 25 degrees to 27 degrees of Taurus indicates a strong Pleiadian connection. You don't say. There are zodiac correspondences. Syrian starseeds often have heavy Taurus placements, while Arcturians are linked to strong Aquarius or Uranus influences. Andromedans frequently display a dominance of Libra in their charts, reflecting their reputed obsession with balance and freedom. Then there are the somatic and physical markers. Big nose, long fingers. Many in the Awakener community believe that the physical body retains echoes of its previous non-human forms. These are not considered defects, but biological signatures of starseed origin. Arcturian souls are said to inhabit bodies with deep, penetrating eyes and a naturally lower than average body temperature. Lyran starseeds, specifically the feline subgroup, may have slightly slanted cat-like eye shapes. Okay. Oh, buddy. Hold on. Or a skeletal structure that feels too long for their frame. I knew this is going to dive into potentially uncomfortable territory. A high intolerance for bright fluorescent lights, electronic smog or electromagnetic frequency sensitivity, or large crowds is often interpreted as the nervous system struggling to calibrate to Earth's low-frequency 3D environment compared to a more refined 5D homeworld. There's also past life regression and Akashic record access. For those seeking direct experience rather than data, quantum healing hypnosis technique, or QHHT, I can't believe that this is a thing that is so prominent that it's got its own, abbreves for it, but it was pioneered by Dolores Cannon, and it is considered the gold standard, so says the research sources I've found here. This involves a deep trance state where the individual is guided to view their between lives memories or homeworld incarnations. And then there's the home meditation. A popular DIY method involves a visualization where you imagine a sacred garden with a door leading to the cosmos. Witnesses often describe seeing landscapes with multiple suns, purple skies, or crystalline architecture. And then there's taking a peek in the Akashic records, the permanent records of all existence. Some practitioners claim to read the Akashic records, a theoretical cosmic library of all soul experiences. They look for the original entry point, the very first star systems where a soul chose to take on a form after emerging from the source, the monad, the one. And finally, the path of resonance, which relies on how an individual reacts to specific information. If a person reads about the Orion Wars and feels a visceral sense of grief or combat fatigue, quote unquote combat fatigue, they are encouraged to view that as a legitimate soul memory. Stolen valor, I think, also, maybe. I don't know. That could be problematic overlap. Nostalgia for the future. A hallmark of the starseed experience is a homesickness for a place that doesn't exist on Earth. This exists in other forms known as like ringlorn, I believe it's called. Just really wanting to live in a fantasy world. There's skill carryover. Someone who has an intuitive, genius-level understanding of advanced geometry, coding, or frequency healing without... one of those things is not like the other. Without training is often categorized as an Arcturian or Assyrian technician whose skills have bled through the veil of reincarnation. So the spring equinox, the hours leading up to the symmetry gate, many on the frequency forums are advising against forced regression. It said instead they suggest passive observation, paying attention to which star system seems to pulse or draw your eye that night as the veils thin. It's expected to make these connections more obvious to the naked intuition. Put some clothes on, intuition. So now that we've gotten that pertinent information out of the way, let's take a closer look at some of the more prominent UFO groups that are much more. These are more decentralized. These are more like subcultures as opposed to, cults, organizations, etc. So, interstellar awakeners. You heard me refer to these folks several times already, this episode and the last. The interstellar awakeners, or Jingji Huang Jingzhe? Perfect. Is a prominent, decentralized underground spiritual and ufological movement in China that reached national awareness between 2024 and 2026. Emerging from the digital ruins of earlier groups like the Shanghai Etheric Network, mentioned last episode, the Awakeners represent a more militant, don't like that, and technologically savvy iteration of the starseed phenomenon. They believe that a significant portion of the Chinese population, specifically those born during the UFO waves of the 1980s and 90s, possess dormant extraterrestrial DNA that is currently being activated by the surge in UAP activity across the South China Sea and Xinjiang. The core tenet of the Interstellar Awakeners is that UAPs are not merely physical craft, but linguistic triggers, quote-unquote linguistic triggers. They argue that the geometric script seen in the 2016 Guangdong Dreams and the 2018 Shenzhen Halo are optical keys designed to unlock latent cognitive abilities in human observers. Members of the group claim that by meditating on these specific geometric patterns, they can achieve high bandwidth communication with a collective intelligence that they call the architects of the void, quote unquote, architects of the void. Unlike previous groups that sought a savior from the stars, the Awakeners focus on internal contact, believing that the aliens, quote-unquote aliens, are already here. I would agree with that. Residing within the human neural architecture as compressed data packets. In principle, I agree with that, but it's a little more complicated. I don't know. Go listen to the Sex with Non-Human Entities series. And maybe you can define what I was trying to say out of that. I'm going to have to come back to that with a little more clarification on the idea of occult eugenics some point down the road. Let's see. So, due to the Chinese government's strict crackdown on superstitious and unauthorized social organizations in 2024, the Interstellar Awakeners operate as a silent network. They avoid traditional social media platforms like WeChat for sensitive discussions, instead utilizing socialized mesh networks and encrypted decentralized apps, or DApps, to share contact logs and data downloads. They're known for hosting silent sky watches in remote areas like the Gobi Desert and the mountains of Yunnan, where members gather to witness UAPs without using electronic lights or broadcasting their location, relying on what they call coherent thought projection to attract the phenomena. Sounds very much like CE5, which CE5 and, believe it or not, CE6 will be getting an episode soon. The Awakeners gained significant credibility within the UFO subculture by predicting the arrival of the 2021 Shenzhen mirror object. They claimed that the mirrored surface of the craft was a reflective bridge intended to show humanity its own potential. So during the 2023 South China Sea Wave, the group released a series of decrypted transcripts that they claimed were intercepted from the UAP's electronic emissions. These transcripts supposedly contain warnings about technological stagnation and instructions for developing biological computing, a fusion of human consciousness and AI that the group believes is the only way to join the Interstellar Federation. As of 2026, the Interstellar Awakeners are a primary target of the Chinese Ministry of Public Security's Cognitive Security Initiatives, thought police. The state views the group's belief in extraterrestrial DNA as a dangerous form of spiritual secession that undermines national unity and the materialist education system. Several high-profile members, including former aerospace engineers and tech entrepreneurs, have been detained for spreading rumors that disturb social order. That's a quotation. Spreading rumors that disturb social order. However, the movement continues to grow in the shadows, fueled by the persistent and undeniable presence of UAPs in Chinese airspace, which the Awakeners view as their true government manifesting in the sky. So obviously, that's going to be a big fucking problem for a lot of people. So, follow-up to this. There's the 2025 Blue Light event in Chengdu. It's a recent and highly controversial chapter in the Interstellar Awakeners narrative. On the evening of March 14th, 2025, residents across Chengdu, specifically in the Tianfu New area and near the Longchuan Mountains, witnessed a massive silent pulse of cobalt blue light that seemed to wash over the city from the upper atmosphere. Unlike a lightning strike or a power transformer explosion, the light was described as a slow-moving curtain that lingered for nearly 30 seconds. While official sources eventually attributed the event to a high-altitude testing of the artificial moon, a satellite-based illumination project, the Interstellar Awakeners claimed that this was the first successful mass invocation performed by their network, CE5. According to the Interstellar Awakeners, the blue light event was not a random sighting, but a deliberate response, quote-unquote response, to a coordinated meditation effort. The group claimed that over 5,000 awakened individuals across Sichuan and Guangdong synchronized their cognitive frequencies at precisely 9 p.m., using the geometric meditations derived from the 2016 scripts. They argued that this collective mental output created a localized resonance in the aether, essentially calling down a light-based data transmission from the same intelligence responsible for the 2018 Shenzhen halo. To the Awakeners, the blue light was a cleansing frequency, intended to accelerate the DNA activation of their members. What makes the 2025 event unique amongst recent UFO reports is the specific nature of the technological interference. In the minutes following the blue pulse, Chengdu's smart city infrastructure, including automatic traffic lights, facial recognition kiosks, and public Wi-Fi hubs, reportedly displayed the same geometric symbols and cuneiform QR code artifacts seen in previous years. Several users on the platform Xiaohongshu posted photos of public screens that had glitched into patterns of interlocking blue hexagons. The Awakeners interpreted this as a system-wide handshake, suggesting that the extraterrestrial intelligence was now capable of directly interfacing with China's urban digital nervous system. The state-run media response was swift, labeling the event a successful high-altitude reflective test of the Chengdu Artificial Moon Project, which is designed to replace streetlights with reflective sunlight to save energy. However, skeptical netizens pointed out that the artificial moon is intended to reflect warm sunlight, not produce an electrically charged blue pulse that causes electronics to malfunction. Others speculated that the light was actually a byproduct of a directed energy weapon, or DEW, do in the do, a test of such a device, or a high-powered LiDAR system being used for geological mapping, given Chengdu's role as a major hub for China's aerospace and defense industry. For the Interstellar Awakeners, the 2025 Blue Light event served as their Great Awakening. It transitioned the group from a fringe research circle to a quasi-religious movement with a sense of urgent mission. They believe that the blue light imparted a hidden calendar into their subconscious, marking 2026 as the year of the unfolding, where the mere objects seen in Shenzhen will begin to manifest in every major Chinese province. As a result, the group has become more insulated and secretive, moving their mass invocations to even more remote areas to avoid the intensifying state surveillance of their frequency-based activities. The 2026 spring equinox was the current focal point of the Interstellar Awakeners activity, serving as both prophetic timeline and a call to action for their decentralized cells across China. So, having already gone through the spring equinox, the movement has shifted from passive observation to what they call the Great Synchrony. According to the internal communications of the Awakeners, the spring equinox, specifically the moment the sun crossed the celestial equator, would act as a spatial temporal trigger for the next phase of the 2016 to 2025 sequence. The core of the 2026 forecast is the symmetry gate theory. The Awakeners believe that the geometric script received in Guangdong in 2016 and the mirror object seen in Shenzhen in 2021 were preparatory stages for a bilateral opening. They predict that during the 2026 spring equinox, the mirror objects would no longer just reflect the environment, but would become translucent, allowing for a two-way exchange of matter and information. The forecast suggested that multiple mirror portals would appear simultaneously over Mount Tai, the traditional gateway to the heavens in Chinese mythology, and the South China Sea, creating a meridian of light that bisects the country. A controversial aspect of that 2026 forecast was the 144,000 nodes. Now, 144,000. If you know, you know. Okay, so the Interstellar Awakeners have predicted that the day of the equinox, a global pulse similar to the 2025 Chengdu Blue Light event, but on a national scale, would target specific individuals who have been tuned to the frequency of the geometric scripts. The forecast claimed that the nodes, these people, will experience a cognitive bifurcation, quote unquote, where they will begin to perceive the true sky behind the atmospheric mirror maintained by terrestrial military forces. The sky is fake. Okay? This has led to a surge in frequency matching workshops in private apartments in Shanghai and Beijing, where participants used binaural beats and digital geometric projections to quote unquote calibrate their neural pathways for the upcoming pulse. The 2026 forecast explicitly linked the current naval tensions in the South China Sea to the equinox event. The Awakeners argued that the matte black cubes and transmedium craft observed by the People's Liberation Army Navy and U.S. Navy in 2023 are actually quote-unquote stabilizers being positioned to manage the energetic surge of the equinox. They believe the military interference or jamming is an attempt to prevent the Awakeners from establishing a direct link with these craft. The forecast warned that any military attempt to intercept the equinox portals could result in a technological blackout across the entire Asia-Pacific region as a self-defense mechanism of the etheric network. Right. Okay. Got it. As we move closer, or past now, sorry. So now that we're past the 2026 equinox, on the approach, the Chinese government was reportedly launching something called Operation Clear Sky, which is a massive public awareness and cybersecurity campaign designed to neutralize the Awakener forecast. State media had begun airing documentaries on high-altitude atmospheric physics and the optical illusions of the equinox, while internet censors had been instructed to flag any use of the term symmetry gate. Despite this, the Awakeners continued to spread their equinox maps via offline QR code exchanges and localized Wi-Fi hotspots, viewing the state's intense reaction as further proof that the forecast would be accurate and that the architects of the void were about to make their final move. Okay, so we've officially passed, obviously, we're quite a bit past the 10:46 p.m. Central Standard Time mark for the spring equinox. And as with many high-stakes symmetry dates, that's what they call these, the world looks remarkably similar to how it did beforehand, at least on the surface. If you were expecting any kind of literal physical rift to open in the sky over Hangzhou or a mass ascension of the starseed community, it seems that we are still firmly planted in good old mom and pop 3D reality. Or 4D if you count time, I guess. I don't know. However, if you check the digital ground floor, the narrative has not died. It's simply pivoted, as these things tend to do. The post-game report on what actually went down was that there was the Clear Sky reality check. While Operation Clear Sky didn't culminate in an uncloaking, there were some legitimate atmospheric anomalies noted. In several northern Chinese provinces, including Heilongjiang and parts of the Qinghai Plateau, skywatchers reported unusually vibrant auroras and high-altitude light pillars around the peak time. Skeptics point to intensified solar activity coincidentally hitting during the equinox, but the Bureau 749 enthusiasts had already been claiming that these were frequency emitters at work, preparing the atmosphere for a stealth uplink that wasn't meant to be seen by the quote-unquote uninitiated. Now, on forums like Dubon and the private starseed boards, the consensus is shifting from a physical gate to a somatic one. Many users were logging that they felt post-gate vibrations, claims of sudden intense clarity, vivid memory downloads from the 1993 archives of Bureau 749, or localized hums that stayed consistent throughout the 10:46 p.m. window. To this community, the gate did open, but it was a biological handshake rather than a geographical one. They believe that the architect's signal was a data burst that will take days, weeks, maybe even months to extract from their own DNA. There's also a segment of that community that views the lack of public spectacle as a success. They argue that if the symmetry gate had been visible to the naked eye, the military, the modern successors to Bureau 749, would have intervened in some way. So by keeping the event phase shifted and off the radar, the Starseeds believe they successfully bypassed the Great Firewall's spiritual equivalent, allowing the 16-year cycle to close without state interference. Basically, the world didn't end. Nothing changed on an entirely dramatic level, and the sky didn't crack. But for these people that we've been talking about, that we've been investigating, the spring equinox was something of a successful completion of a decades-long secret history. And they'd gone from waiting for the architects to now essentially believing that they are the architects. So, yeah, that's what happened with that. As far, I mean, like I said, a lot of them are saying that it's going to take days, weeks, maybe even months to extract the data downloads into their DNA through meditative practices, etc., to determine what the next steps are. So, something to look forward to. I know I will be awaiting with bated breath. Now, there's a couple more Chinese UFO groups, but the verifiability of some of these groups, I'm not too certain on, so I'm just going to run through these, give you their names. There's the Outer Dimension Resonators. There's the Celestial Witnesses Union. There is, who else we got here? There is the Star Spirit Society. There is the Cosmic Mathematics Research Group. Sounds like a fun gang. There is the Future Archives Bureau. There is, let me see, the Mystery Orb Trackers. There's the Galactic Observation League. A lot of these are, subdivisions of the Awakener group. There's the Hyperdimensional Evidence Hunters, which actually sounds pretty badass. I would fucking get down with those guys. There's the Earth Core Portal Research Group. And I believe that's it as far as some of the more major civilian UFO groups go. Not quite cults, but they are verging on certain spiritual beliefs, but it's intersected strangely with pseudoscience, etc. So the determination as to where a scientific group and a cult sort of is demarcated is very difficult to discern. But that's going to do it for this wrap up. I mostly just wanted to get out the information concerning the spring equinox stuff, but when I come back later this week, we're going to get into something that's a little more in line with a regular installment of the Occult Crime Atlas, because we're going to dig into some events that are a lot more on the paranormal side, I would say. A lot more on the occult side of things. Not necessarily having to do with UFO, UAP, although there will be some overlap in certain situations. Man, I had a lot of stuff I had to cut for time, but if anyone's interested, just let me know. I can maybe do addendum episodes. I got all these different humanoid encounters that supposedly took place, more UFO, UAP sightings. So there's a lot of stuff, but this is where we're getting more into the realm of urban legend and stuff that's a lot harder to discern the reality of. So that's the problem with a lot of it, and I'm hesitant to even include much of this spring equinox stuff that was supposedly taking place, because once again, the ephemeral nature of how quickly come and go a lot of this information is, allegedly, somewhere on all these bulletin boards, etc. Like, it's very iffy. So I just wanted to finish up that narrative and get into the stuff that I really like, which is the paranormal / dark spooky ooky shit. So tune in later this week as we do that. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. This has been Kooks, Pranks, and Iconoclast, the podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lucht. Join us here later this week when we get into zombie outbreaks. We got some monster encounters. We got some spirit possession cases. We got, just a plethora of weird shit coming down the pipe. Pipe. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you on the next one.
Great success.